Hi, and welcome to the Awakening series. My name is Kimberly Archuleta. This is a series where we bring brilliant minds together. Today, we have an honored guest. His name is Jeff. He's from Alberta, Canada. Jeff has an interesting story and journey. He has some very hard experiences through life. His brother passed away. Then Jeff tried to take his life. And we're actually going to talk about his near-death experience and what really changed in him and his path and his journey now. So we're very excited to have Jeff on the show. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you, Kimberly. It's actually my honor to be on your show and to get to know you over the little bit of time that we got to know each other has been really good for me. So thank you for inviting me, of course. And I look forward to sharing what I share as far as my experiences go. So if you want, I can kind of dive into that, or do you have any questions beforehand?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Your experience is amazing, and I'm very excited for you to share it. So if you can dive into your near-death experience, that'd be great.
So for the near-death experience, we're going to kind of give you a pretext to what led up, because the near-death experience was more of a result to the way I was living before. And so like all people with near-death experiences, everyone has their own story on why that may have happened. For me, it was more deliberate. Like before this, I was struggling with drug addiction. I was just struggling with not living my life in a way that I would consider to be good for myself in any way, shape, or form. A year prior, my younger brother had died as well. So I was very grief stricken, but drugs were always a thing that I battled with. And then it got to the point where I just became so heavy, so negative that it was more or less like, I just don't want to live anymore. I don't want to be here. So I ended up consuming an entire bottle of painkillers. And that was when I had this near-death experience. So I can start there. Like, when I took the bottle of painkillers, it took a little bit for it to kick in, but when it did, everything just started to go black on me. And then the next thing I remember is I'm now seeing myself from a different vantage point. So I'm more or less now looking down on myself. I know we hear the stories like people, they're looking down on themselves when we hear these. And that's absolutely what happened to me. I was just looking down on myself, like on my body. And there were paramedics working on me and doing things like that. I was in the ambulance. So whatever happened before, like when I took the pills, there was obviously a time where the paramedics had to be called and all these things had to take place. I'm thinking about 25 minutes where everything was just black. For me, it didn't seem like 25 minutes. It was like really instant, but it had to have been about 25 minutes. And so everything was black until that moment where I'm now staring down on myself in the ambulance. And this is where everything kind of began. This is the first thought I really had. The first idea was, oh, wow, like this is what it means to die. I was like, well, but I'm not dead. Like, so the idea of death for me immediately changed to, oh, we don't die at all. Now, I had an understanding of this a little bit because when I was young, I would see spirits, but I didn't quite understand what that was. So I didn't really kind of even relate it to life after death. I just maybe thought that, I don't know, spirits were kind of in one realm, but so I didn't have a context for it, but I didn't really know. I didn't grow up with like a religious background about what would happen. Although I did have a fear of going to hell, just because of all the things I did while I was living. So that was one thing, but hell was definitely not something that I experienced when I died. Hell was more something that I experienced while I was living. Before, and I would say even after when I came back, it was more hell-like because I had to repay all the damage that I had done. This was another thing I learned about karma being a very real thing. Karma is not just a concept or a belief. For me, it was absolutely real. I had to feel what I did to others in some way, shape, or form. I had to give that back. I had to go through the pains and the emotions on other people that I may have put them through things. But going back to like being out of my body and this idea that, oh, wow, this is what it means to die. It's just so odd because we're kind of here. So I was still here, but I was on a different, let's say a channel, a different bandwidth. I was beside this world, but the world still all looked the same, but I was no longer in time and space. I was outside of this slow process that we go through called time. And I was no longer within that. So everything was perceived from like one moment, and my life started to become a review. So as the review goes, the review started out slowly, but then it started to speed up. And then everything started to come into this meshed one moment of time kind of thing. But not only did I review this life and the things that I did, realizing that I had basically messed up or done wrong all things that I kind of put for myself to do, as like before I came here. And I can't speak for anyone else other than my own self and my experiences. So everything I say is my thing, and I can't speak for other people. But for me, I set up this blueprint, like this plan, this path of life. And I set up challenges and things that I would do and things I'd have to achieve while being here. And it was very obvious that I failed through all of those challenges. I just was always running away from things. I never could, complete things. I would hurt people out of my own insecurities and my own fears. And I had a lot of fears too. And when I'm looking at this review, when I'm looking at this blueprint of life, I'm realizing, oh man, like I didn't even get one thing right. I totally messed it up. But there was no, we get this idea of like being judged or whatever. For me, I was the judge, I was the jury, I was the defense. I was all things that represent me judging myself. There was no authority saying, you did bad, you go here. Oh, you did good, you're allowed into heaven. Like that didn't exist. And the way I experienced it was there was no God in the sense of God being separate from me. I was one with that God. So everything was a part of it, not separate from it. There was nothing of a creator, but it was all creation that we all exist within. So the idea of like visiting God, I didn't have that experience. I just had the experience of knowing that I was God in a sense of being a part of creation. So a lot of NDEs and stuff, people talk about their own unique experiences. And I think it's so neat that we do have these unique experiences that all pertain to the individual person. But I think there's these universal truths too that people talk about and things like that we can kind of all relate to as well, which is really neat too, because it shows that, a lot of us are having these same kind of experiences from all different walks of life and all different parts of the earth. So it's neat to see how a lot of the same things do happen for a lot of us. And so I started to review my life. And I started to see the things, and not only did I see what I did wrong, but I felt what others felt when I did them wrong. But I also felt what others felt when I lifted them up, when I made them feel good. So it was as if I was almost one with them as well. Like everything like we perceive on earth is like separate, but from a higher place, it's not separate. It's all combined. It's all meshed in. It's all together. My action here will affect someone across a world that has no relation to me in some shape or form. Like we all have this effect over everyone else, but yet we still all are very individual and separate. That's the way that I kind of perceived it, as it's all just interconnected, but in a way we can't see from being in 3D reality. When you go above and beyond that into like, say, the spirit realm, if you want to call it that, you can now see the connections, the interlinking connections between all things and all people, but you need to be from that perspective. When I came back, I think one of the greatest gifts I was given was coming back. I didn't truly come fully back into 3D. I had a part of myself almost kept out. So I have this gift of being able to see from like the mountaintop view of my own life. So even though I perceive the trees, I still get to see the forests that they lie within, right? From this higher perspective of myself. So I do kind of get like this, I kind of cheat at life a little bit because I kind of have access to, I don't know, like a cheat sheet as far as what my challenges are, what I'm to do. I've also seen my future. So I know where I'm walking into as well, which is another thing that I experienced in my NDE was viewing my future. But before I go there, I know I'm just like bouncing all over the place, but that's just the way it is. So I'm just going to have to just go back and forth. And so back to like, this review. Not only did I review this life, but I started to open up to like past lives as well. As we experience them linearly, time does not run in a line. Time is actually runs in circles, is really the true nature of time. And so I started to realize, oh, we also have past lives, and we just don't have connection to those past lives, because in this life, we've put a veil over us so that we are disconnected from the past lives, so that we can focus ourselves here and then do what we can to develop and grow. One thing, like one strong belief I have about our spirits and our souls, is that our souls love challenge, because challenge creates expansion, and our soul loves to be challenged, and our soul wants to grow. So we are just 100% energy, but that energy will expand. And from my own personal experience, expansion happens at a faster rate the more we're challenged, the more resistance we experience, and the more struggle we go through. I think that's why I've expanded so much in such a short time, because my life has just been filled with one challenge after another. And like I'll meet people and say, like, you're wise beyond you're wise beyond your years. And it's just because I think all the things that I've been through and all the kind of the experiences I've had. So the soul wants this expansion so much. And a lot of people ask, why am I here? Like, I don't want to be here. Like, we always think like it's too hard, but the soul loves it, right? It loves Earth, I think, because Earth is one of the places in the galaxy that is one of those like master schools. And we just want to be here for that reason. So there's that. Like, I did learn a lot in this NDE about how things work, how we have these separate bodies as well, how we're not just a physical, but obviously we are an energetic or a soul body. That's what I'm looking down on my physical body with. But we also have like an emotional body. We have a mental body. We have these different things that, although they mesh together, they're very separate in how we function. And so if we're like emotionally heavy, then our internal energy, like our soul, has a hard time vibrating out and shining its light, because it's being dimmed by our emotional body. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's so I started to see all these connections, at least with my own body. Oh, okay, so this is all the work that I was supposed to do, but I never, and now it's all built up and piled up. And so I was given a second chance to come back. So I did meet with some beings. They did highly recommend that I do go back. And if I did go back, this is the life that, I could have. And I was shown this amazing future with me at the center of this future. And it was obvious that I needed to go back even before I saw these images. But it was just so obvious, because I knew that I had to overcome these things. And I'm here for my own purpose, and I'm here to share stories and share information. And that's kind of like my main purpose. And so that's kind of the idea of that. Coming back, yes, it was very hard. I had to reconnect everything, and I had to work through the emotions, that heavy body that I talk about. And I had to fix my mind as far as going in and removing the negativity or the negative beliefs that create the negative thinking and then create the negative actions and things. So I had to like readjust and fix everything, and then almost like pay up my karmic debt. The experience was very obviously life altering for me, coming from someone who was like a drug addict wanting to die, and then now being back on the earth with this very different perspective of myself and the world, and then moving forward, just doing what I can to repair and fix the damages that I've done. So that's kind of like I think that's the greatest way I kind of explain my NDE.
Talk about an awakening. That's amazing. Wow. So a couple questions for you. As far as when you first were above your body, what happened thereafter? Were you pulled somewhere else, or did everything happen at that point when you were doing the life review, or did you meet somebody and they pulled you somewhere?
Yeah. So my little brother, who died the year before, he's the one who came in and he wanted me to follow him. And so we went to this room. It was just basically a big, open, bright, white room. And then there was a doorway that we went in, and there was 3 beings that I had met, and they spoke with me briefly about my purpose, about my path, about myself, and about me wanting to go back. Or it's not like they're saying you have to go back, you're not done. They're saying we highly advise you go back because you're not done. But it was obvious that I needed to go back. Seeing my brother, the way he responded to me, the way that felt, knowing that he is okay, knowing that like obviously when we die, we don't die. We're just on a different channel, if you will. The whole thing was very unusual, just because like the life I came from was so heavy, so dense, so I was, not someone obviously who was walking around with a great mind in any way, shape, or form. And I wouldn't think about these things at all. So having these experiences, understanding it's one of the greatest questions that we ask, being basically just given these answers was, I was very taken back by it. It was very life changing. And my brother is a huge part of my awakening. He's a huge part of the changes. I do things, yes, for myself, but I ultimately do them for him. He is, for me, my greatest inspiration to get up, my greatest inspiration for basically everything I do. I do it with him in mind, and I do it with what he would like it to be done as well, and the way he envisioned things and his morals and his beliefs. I instill that into everything that I do, because he had a great way of just bringing people together and just seeing the good in things. So I never had that. It was always hard for me to like see good in people where he could just naturally do that. So I just more adopted a lot of the things for him, and I just kind of I live for me, but kind of through him a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I love that you were able to see him. Two questions in regards to that. When you first got to where you were, that really bright room with the beings, was it full of love? One question. Two questions is, like, do you have a specific, like quote from your brother from that moment that you remember and that you keep with you always, that he said to you during that time? Or was it just so quick that you just, and also, were you telepathically speaking to him, or sorry?
No, it was more of a physical speaking, and it was very much filled with peace. The peace that I felt throughout the whole time was something that I've never felt here. Even coming back, I have not felt that. There was just a sense of safety that I've never, ever been able to feel. And that safety brought in this peace. And so, there was a love as far as that room, as far as that light. It was just nothing but for my own benefit. The spirits there, the guides that were there for me. They were there for my best interest, you can tell. And we had a connection. So it's not like they were strangers. From the soul level, we all knew each other very well. My brother had just the way he is, just that, oh, wow, that was quite the ride, it's just the way he is as far as his personality. I always remember just the way his personality is. And he would always joke about things, but he was always light. So, if it wasn't for his dying, I just feel like his death kind of set the domino effect into play with me, where one thing led to another. And then I find myself in such a low state where I'm wanting to die, and then having this NDE and then coming back. It's like my brother kind of set all that into motion. So when my brother like impacted a lot of people while he was alive, but it was his death that did the most. A lot of his friends were on the wrong path as well. And when he died, they all shifted and changed to something different. I feel like he had more impact in his death, even for me, than when he was alive. It's as if his death and the way he died was a part of his path, a part of his plan for what he would do for people. That's just kind of what that feels like.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful. I appreciate that. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. As far as what you're doing like now with this near-death experience, how long ago was this?
So 2010 is when the near-death experience happened. So that's what now, 11, almost 12 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel like the 12 years of this experience now on Earth has changed? I know you said it's changed, but to what degree? I mean, you have a purpose, but did you come back with abilities, or what?
Well, that's because my story just begins with my NDE. And I'm not sure if you know some of the other things that occurred, or I can briefly touch on them.
No,
I know they're a little maybe outside of the norm as far as conversations go, but I'll touch in on them a little bit. Like the NDE for me was just the beginning of all things strange and unusual, because it led to me uncovering more of who I was. So when I was a kid, I would always feel weird and strange and just different. And I know there's something about me. I would always have these very strong intuitive feelings with things, and then they would come true. And so I was very kind of intuitive that way when I was young. And I was just kind of a weird kid where I would love being in nature, and I would go by myself and just sit, in the trees for like hours by myself and almost like meditate. But I didn't know about meditation, but I kind of was doing that, but not really. I just was weird when I was a kid, but the NDE started everything. And then after that, I had what people call a Kundalini awakening, which was a whole other thing for me that kind of set in motion this beginning of releasing and removing a lot of the things within me that weren't right. So I had, like a full blown Kundalini awakening where I had this energy move up my spine and move all the way into my head. And as it was going up, it was creating these energy centers that would spin and that would build up energy. And eventually the energy got so much that they would just blow out. And then when I had like an energy release, then that energy would continue to move up my spine. And so it kept moving up and it would get stuck in these vortices. I think people call them chakras or whatever, right? These centers in the body. And so they would go into these centers and then they would just blow energy out, and then they keep going up. And what it did for me was create this sense of wholeness. Like, it empowered me, but it also removed things about me that were not good, that were childish. Like, it was maturing me, not just mentally, emotionally, but energetically. I was becoming upgraded, if you will. And that was that. So that Kundalini thing was just another thing towards even more unusual for me. In 2012, I had my kind of first UFO encounter. And that happened in Victoria, BC, Canada, where I had a UFO come above my head. It was about 100 feet up ish and just stop. I had a message kind of telepathically brought to me. And that message was just like, everything's going to be okay. That's all they said to me. And then they slowly took off. But because it's like their energy of the ship was something I'll never forget. So it was like kind of bombarded me with their energy. And then that energy started to rise and lift other things. Like, it's as if it opened up my subconscious mind and like blew off my head as far as like beliefs. So after this, I was experiencing things. I was experiencing vomiting, but like while I was vomiting, I was literally seeing images of the media like coming out in my vision, and like things about memories from the past and programming and like just memories that I had forgotten about. They were now starting to rise to the surface of when I was very young and traumas and things that happened. And so I was like internally cleansing my mind of these things. Like, if we cleanse our physical bodies, we're doing it we're cleansing in a different way, but this way it's like a mental cleanse I was experiencing. And I just feel like all these things, like the Kundalini, the NDE, the UFO stuff, was all about purging me out, all things that are not me, and then giving me a starting point to build up who I truly am, what I came here for, and what I'm here to do. And like, it took me a long time, and it's still, so we're looking almost 12 years now, and I'm still kind of grappling with the idea of who I am and why I'm here and what this means and why me. Because I always felt like there's so many other more qualified people where these things should be happening to, not me. Like I was the kind of the drug addict, homeless person. why me? But you know what? That the drug thing, the homeless thing was just a side effect of me being not well. And I was traumatized as a kid, and it led to all these other things. But when I look back when I was really little, it makes sense too. The why, it does make sense, because I was very intelligent when I was young. I was very like aware of things. I was always kind of ahead of people when it comes to just what I was thinking or what they were thinking. And I can always feel people's thoughts. I could always tell if a girl liked me like really, really quickly. I could just always, and if someone didn't like me, I just always knew things like just automatically. But then that all went away, obviously, with drugs and stuff. But it's just, these experiences for me have been very, very obviously life-changing. The transformation from who I was to who I am now, I don't even see the same person in the mirror. And I mean that literally. I would walk by old friends and they wouldn't even know who I was. I would walk right by them, look at them in the eyes, and they would walk right by me like I'm a stranger. And when that happened the first couple of times, I'm like, okay, like, wow, I really did change. These people that I hung out with year after year and spent a lot of time with don't even recognize me at all. Like at all. It's like, holy, yeah. And that just goes to show the extent of the changes that I've had.
That's beautiful, Jeff. Seriously, that is so amazing. I'm pretty wowed by your experiences. If you don't mind me asking, with your Kundalini experience, where were you exactly? And like, were you in a yoga stance or yoga studio, or were you sleeping, or were you awake?
This happened through a sexual experience.
Nice. That's even better.
Yeah. So it was something that I obviously didn't know anything about. It was after the Kundalini experience that I learned about it. I did some deep diving and research into like what was going on with me. And the way it kind of set up with the person I was with, it just kind of happened. And I learned some things about that. But, in my own experience, and I'm going to say this for my own thing, I don't think that the way to awaken your Kundalini is through doing yoga. I just don't think that's the answer. I just don't think that's how it's done. And I haven't met anyone that's actually had a real Kundalini awakening in that way. And I think there's a lot of these things that people say, oh, open up your third eye. One thing I'll tell you about having opened my third eye in a very real way, you don't want that thing opened. So I'm just from my own experience, you don't want it open, because once that opens, your world will never, ever be the same. You are forever changed. What it does is when you open that eye, what it's really doing is it's giving you it's opening you to a reality or realities that you're not yet, you're not privy to knowing or having access to. It grants you access to parallel realities of Earth, of timelines, that if you don't know what you're doing with it, you can cause you to be in a psych ward. Like the level of experience that it gives you is so dramatic, so strong, so extreme, that I don't wish that upon anyone who will not take it with. It's got to be taken very seriously. It can't be taken like, oh, I had my third eye open today. It's like, no, that's not how it works. Like, you don't just have it open and then it closes and then you're all good. And the way, well, at least with me, so I speak on my own term, right? When I had my eye opened, it stayed open for many years, and I didn't know how to shut it. So when it opened up, I'm now experiencing things and seeing things in a way I can't control. To me, it really felt like I was on a mushroom trip for about 3 straight years that I could not turn off. It was like I was, so dimethyltryptamine, like DMT, we hear about that. Mm-hmm. So it's like I took a whole bunch of that and I never stopped taking it. It just kept happening, which goes back to the idea too. When I did have my near-death experience, when I came back, my body did flood with dimethyltryptamine, and it was like literally hallucinating, and I had to like decipher between what was real and what wasn't, and what's happening. One of the hardest things for me going through this was really the questioning of my sanity. It was that, okay, is this real, or am I a schizophrenic now? Like, am I experiencing something that to me is real, but to others isn't? And so I had to question this for a long time. And I was even going up to people and saying, do you see that? Right? And like, if you don't, why am I seeing it? So this questioning of, am I mentally ill? Is something seriously wrong with me? Or is there something else that I just don't understand? And that's over the time that it took me to learn, wait a second, no, this is something that is just not understood. This is something that I can learn to control. I can turn on and off. And over the years, I've been able to now turn on and turn off the pineal gland as far as whether it opens or closes. Having the Kundalini awakening, having it go up and tap into the pineal gland, is when I started to understand what a lot of these ancient symbols mean, with King Tut back there and the serpent out of his headdress and the bird and stuff like that. This all goes back to that knowledge. This goes back to that opening of the third eye. And this knowledge of doing that was kept hidden and kept away for various reasons. And I can understand now why they don't want people knowing it, because if you don't know what to do with it, if you wouldn't know how to interact with it, it would make you go nuts. It would literally drive you to insanity if you didn't know how to process it. Fortunately, I'm a strong person, and over the years, I was able to somehow grapple and get a hold of this. And now, all these years later, I can say that I've finally come to a place where I've learned so many things about turning things on and off. That you asked about
How
the
did
psychic
you, if you don't
abilities.
mind me, how did you turn it off? How did you do that? Did you have
So
help?
it was learning to control myself. And it
Mm.
was learning to allow the visions for what they were, and allowing to not like be afraid of them, but to allow them and learn from them, and learning to understand my role and what's happening. So it was really gaining understanding of the whole process, but then just learning to live with and not try to fight against all these things, which gave me control over them. When I started to stop, pushing them away from me and saying, this is wrong, this is bad, I felt like doing that was bouncing it back a lot harder on me. And so all these things, it wasn't just that, the psychic abilities, the clairvoyance that came with all the things, seeing spirits and talking with them, and they're always bugging me and all this stuff. It just was like so overwhelming. It just all came once. It was so overwhelming. And I thought I thought I was going to die. I thought here I go again. I'm going to die again, or I'm going to kill myself again, because I just can't. But you know what? I don't know how I got through this. I don't, but I know that it was virtually impossible. I know that I barely got through it. And I know that I suffered extensively trying to get there. I know that. And I know that right now I'm at the very end of all of what I feel to be this road of hardship and suffering. And things are starting to now work out for me. And I'm starting to be able to bring my experiences to the world. I finally let go and said, yeah, I'm just going to put myself out there, and whatever comes of it, because I believe I'm here to share these experiences and then help those too who might need assistance like I would have needed back then. I didn't have that. So people are waking up right now at a very accelerated rate, and they're going to maybe need someone like me to say, hey, I've been there, done that, and here's what might help you in your next step along your path. Yeah.
I love that you're so authentic about it, Jeff. It really warms my heart in the sense of you just really questioning, are you going crazy really at the end of the day? And that, to me, I think every single one of us at one point in time have thought that in some way or another. But with that opening of your pineal gland, I mean, I couldn't even imagine. I've had a Kundalini experience. It was phenomenal. It was the most love I've ever felt in my life, but I didn't have my pineal gland, open. It didn't happen. Yeah. I don't have any abilities, but I don't think I do. A bit of intuition, maybe, but
yeah, you would know.
I'm yeah, I don't. But it was the most amazing feeling. I tell you that. As far as you being so honest about it, I do appreciate that, because I do believe, like you said, a lot of people are awakening, and they may be experiencing the drugs just because it's too much for them, and they may be going this way. But I think with your message and your information and you bringing it to the masses and being so courageous in doing so will really help a lot of people. So my next question would be, what are you doing, your daily routine, as far as you're obviously, you have these abilities, and you're like you said, you're coming to the tail end of possibly suffering these and going through all of this, and even purging certain things. What do you do on a daily basis? Do you meditate, or do you go for walks, or what do you do?
Yeah. So for me, I do the best to take care of myself. So as far as daily routines and stuff, I do my best to get enough sleep to recharge. I love the gym. So for me, working out is kind of a form of meditation. I don't meditate, but I feel like meditation for me is going for a walk in nature, taking the dog. I love animals as well. So anything that I do that makes me excited, or I feel good about, or something that I feel joy with, is my form of meditation that brings me to the moment. So I do as much as I can where time seems to fly by really fast. And in that, I know that I'm doing something that I really love to do. So everything I do is I'm always about growth. I'm always learning and trying to develop ways to become or to feel better in my physical body. So I eat very well, the best I can with what I have. I exercise, I stretch. I'm doing things that always make myself feel better. I feel if I feel better, I can act better. I do better. I'm more productive. I can be more creative. Everything I do kind of relates to this idea of me and my like integrity, and being honest, being authentic is the message that I am. It's the message that I share and say, just be yourself, because yourself is your true north path. You don't have to emanate someone else's. I cannot guide anyone towards their path. Like their path is separate from mine. Everyone's path is different, but I think ultimately, energetically, it's all leading to the same place. We're just all going about it very differently. So routines for me, like I said, going back to this idea, it's all about internal growth. I'm always looking on ways. If I'm getting, say, triggered emotionally, I'll always question, okay, what is it that I'm believing about this that's making me feel this way? And I'm always looking to develop. And that's just the way I work now. I process everything. And I always look at something in the way of, what can I get from this experience? What sort of positive message can I pull from this? In what way can this benefit me? I'm always looking to put a spin on reality that will benefit me in a positive way. And I've just built my mind that way now, which makes me feel a lot more joy most of the time. The work that I do is work that I love to do. So I don't really work because I love doing it, and I would do it for free. However, we live in a world where we have bills and we have mortgages and we need vehicles and we need to eat and we need to live, and everything's so expensive. I really wish, I could do what I do. And I was just having a conversation with a friend just the other day. Like, I wish somehow like I just had the money and then I could do this and I didn't really have to charge people. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to charge people for what I do just because I have to live as well. But I found everything I do is because I've chosen to do it. And that's what I have. The message I have for everyone is your purpose, I feel, is as simple as you just living your life on purpose. So you purposely choosing your day, you purposely choosing the choices and moving towards whatever you want that makes you feel good. Always taking these steps, whether big or small, towards things that you like or passionate about is going to lead you on a road where doors will open, opportunities will happen to bring more of these joyful opportunities in. If we just continue to live that way, I feel like we would be in a much happier world for sure.
I completely agree with you. Completely living going to college and then having that beautiful corporate job, making so much money, having the best car in the world, traveling, which is an experience and it's good too. But I think really in my experience, traveling actually opened me up a little bit, and I was able to see the world for what it really could be and how beautiful compared to sitting in a tiny little cubicle or an office that has one window and not being happy in what you're doing. So I love that you said that, living with purpose and loving what you do. And also, like you said, your flow state with the gym. I love the gym too, but I appreciate you saying that's my meditation. I mean, I don't have to meditate to like sit there and be quiet to raise my vibration or be in a state of flow. I can actually enjoy what I like doing, and that's my like flow state and meditation and raising your vibration. So that's awesome.
Yeah, nothing puts you more in the moment than pressing 400 pounds on the bench press, right? Like nothing centers you in reality than that, or putting a big heavy weight on your shoulders and squatting and deadlifting. Like I'm into more of the powerlifting stuff. I was a powerlifter back in the day, but I do more now, just lighter stuff, of course, but nothing does that when you put a lot of heavy weight on you and you have to use every fiber in your being to push that weight. Nothing, there's no future or past thought other than get that thing up, right? It's just, it's something for me that I feel like in the spiritual community, that there's this idea that in order to be spiritual, you have to do this, you have to do yoga, you have to be a vegan, you have to meditate. And I just think these are just more labels for another box to live in. And for me, spirituality is something that I've defined a lot differently than most. And for me, it's about just living my life on purpose, but also doing the things that make me happy. Like I said, meditation for me is doing those things. Like drawing and art for me is a meditation. Going to the gym, walking in the woods, those are all my forms of meditation that center me, that ground me, that put me in the moment. And I can live in the moment now most of the time because I've set up my day that way, where if people meditate for a half hour, then that's what they get for that day. Like they can present themselves for a half hour, but you can do that most of the time if you just do what you like most of the time. Like if you're working at a job and you're looking at the clock and you're like wanting to go home and you're looking at every 5 minutes, you need to get out of that job. That's not for you. If you're always looking at the clock and what you can't wait till Friday or you can't wait to get home, you need to think about what it is that will best benefit you, because you spend most of your time doing that. So you should find something that is more beneficial for you, where you're not so wanting to be home, right? That, and I know that people think, well, I can't do that. It's like, what, I did. And I was the same way. I thought back in the day too, we had to just work and just whatever, just put up with it. And no, you can make your hobby a career if you wanted to. I believe every hobby can become a career.
I love that. I agree with you completely. A question about your photo behind you. My mother loves Egypt, and so do I, of course, because she had all these big books that I got to look at, as I was younger. Why do you have this photo right there? Is it
King Tut goes like,
King Tut? Okay.
My mother would always call me King Tut when I was little. It was kind of funny. It was just a funny joke. Like, who do you think you are, King Tut? And so I love the Egyptian, the science or the religion behind the Egyptian culture. This idea of they understood universal law very well, and they have it in their hieroglyphics. So they have shown us something that we've lost touch with, and it's there if you look. And they have this idea of the afterlife and different things about reality that they just had an understanding of the soul, of themselves, and the science that they ultimately live by. And they live by a certain structure and they followed that. And so that's kind of what draws me to the Egyptians. But I've always felt connected to that time as well. I'm certain I've had lifetimes in that time frame as well, but I've always just been drawn to them. So that's why King Tut's back there as far as that goes. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you for that. So what next for you? Or actually, if you wouldn't mind diving into what you're actually doing. You said you're working with people. And you have to, everybody has to get paid. Like you said, in this day and age, we all have to make some money, but you do what you love. And what is it that you do?
So I have a couple things. I have a mentorship where I work with people one-on-one. They get 12 hours of my time, and it's like 1 hour a week usually, but we go over this idea of gain control of the mind, the body, the emotions, and we find a path. I call it like the true north path, where it's their inner path that they began to set out on when they were little. And one way or another, they were kind of taken off of it, whether that been by their parents or school or something, but they were kind of steered away from what they would have normally gone to if they just had their own decisions, right? And so we're trying to bring them back to that path, and ultimately that leads them back to themselves. My experience of my awakening, so the way I viewed my awakening was, it was removing all that wasn't me and then bringing me back to that true, like childlike essence that I was. So the mentorship is built in that manner, where we shred away, we locate and we find some of the things that aren't working, where people have like mental blocks or negative beliefs, or they have emotional baggage or whatever it may be. We locate and I help them get in touch with that. And then I help them remove these things so that they can start walking towards their true authentic path and be more themselves. And I just give them little tools on how to be able to do some of this work that I've done over the past, so many years. And I've seen great transformations in some of my students. I've seen people in just that short 12 weeks really change their lives in such a way. So that's what I do. I love the one-on-ones because it gives me more time with them. The more time I have with them, the better I can help them. So that's why I kind of set it up that way with 12 hours, just because I can give so much more, and I can hear of their beliefs that are coming out. I can see some of their blocks. And so the mentorship is all about that and more. I'm building a mystery school as well. And that's going to share a lot of some of the knowledge that I've learned along the way, as far as the soul, how things work, kind of universal law, kind of like how physical reality lays itself out, some of the ancient teachings that have been kind of put away for, so-called royal families and priest class kind of people, and kind of held away from the masses. So I'm building a school in that regard as well. I have a lot.
Sign me up.
Yeah, for sure.
That
Absolutely.
sounds amazing.
Yeah, you're welcome to come on in for sure. And then I there's a clothing line that I'm actually building as well. That'll be coming out too. So I do have a lot of aspirations, a lot of goals. The company is like a tree with all these different branches. There's different components to it, but ultimately the company just represents the awakening process, becoming truly yourself, and living the life that you enjoy, that you love, that you can wake up in the morning, feel proud, like you're not weighed down by the heaviness of life. You're not living for someone else, but you're living for yourself. So it's all really just about internal empowerment, ultimately, at the end of the day.
I love that. And I love that you're giving people that raw 20 or 12 hours. And I'm sure with what you've gone through and you listening to whatever it is, there's no judgment. It's just like, I've gone through so much yourself, and being able to like say, listen, please tell me what you've done. Like you're just open to hearing this and listening and helping, like you said, reprogram them or release or downloading new programs, and tips and tricks that we don't know about. We weren't ever taught in school or by our parents, or, we have these old programs in our mind, body and soul. And each and every single one of us has gone through something traumatic, whatever it may be. And if we can't release that, then we can't be our best, self, I guess. And we can't be our best for everybody else. We have this, like you said, in the beginning, it was heavy. You have something heavy on you, and you sometimes don't even know what it is because you forgot about it and you pushed it back there, but there's something there. So that's absolutely awesome.
Yeah. And I think, our first trauma that we forgot about is our birth. That's trauma number one. Right.
Yeah. And then, I almost died actually myself. So I had a cord around my neck, and I literally almost died. It was a lot too. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that is trauma.
And also too, there's another thing too. And I don't really talk about we talk about traumas that we don't really know about, right? Another trauma that for men, especially, well, obviously for men, is one that they don't remember, but that is the trauma of, for a lot of men, is circumcision. Like they have this trauma in them that they don't know. So we have a couple really big traumas that are stuck there that we don't even remember, right? But they're there. And so traumas from early age, especially ones we don't remember, we will carry those fears or from those traumas or the side effects our whole life. Someone could say something to you when you're little, and you can carry that the rest of your life affecting you. And I'm going to give you an example of this. And I didn't realize how, kind of vulnerable we are as people, especially when we're kids. But there was, as a little kid, we can't say mean things, whatever, but there was this girl, and I don't know, maybe she was a little overweight, maybe not. I don't really remember, but she wasn't in any way overweight at all. It was nothing. It was my own crap. And I had said something like, you need to lose some weight or something like that when we were really little, and just a mean little boy, just a horrible thing to say. But I don't know. I don't even know. I think I liked her. And that's why I said that. You know what I mean? It's just one of those dumb things. And so years later, it was like 20 years later, I had seen her. I went back to my hometown, and she told me that shit really messed her up, that she actually became, she had like an eating disorder created from that. Goodness. Yeah. And I was like,
it's good to know that though. It's good that she was honest with you.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm sorry. I didn't know, my God, that's my own crap. I'm so sorry if that caused you anything. And it really made me realize how people can say things. And I've had the same thing to me. I've had people say things to me, and then that moment I quit doing what I was doing because of what they thought, and I shouldn't have. Do you know what I mean? And so we're so susceptible to other people's stuff. And I just told her, I'm so sorry, and I never meant for that. And, and then I kept in touch with her a little bit afterwards, and she was able to release that because of our reconnecting and saying, you're beautiful. I can't believe you would go down that road just from what someone you didn't even really know says. And so a lot of us will take on these imprints. We don't even remember. We'll live our lives through these. We're doing these things, but we don't know where they're coming from. So the subconscious mind, and we have like the subconscious emotional mind, if you will, or emotional aspect to us that is running on just operating, and we're acting due to it, but we don't know where it's coming from. Or we'll do things and we'll say, why do I keep doing this? What's wrong with me? Oh my God, what am I so stupid? I'm so stupid. I keep doing this. And if you're doing that, what you're doing is you're catching a subconscious belief. The conscious mind is noticing it through the actions. And you're like, and then we ask, why do I keep doing this? So there's a subconscious belief driving those actions, and you don't know why. So getting in, like mentorship is all about getting in there and pulling those weeds and then just removing them so that you're not walking. Your actions are based on this line that goes, that's all you. So the actions you're taking, the steps you're taking are all about your betterment, not self-sabotaging or not fear-based. It's all forward movement for your best interest. Because the mind is just like, it's got these components of like wanting to take you away because there's fear involved, or I'm too afraid, or I'm not worthy, or I'm not good enough. But when you align this to who you are, the power you have by knowing that you don't have to fear anything, and that you are, an aspect of God, and you are a great creator, and you can have, do, be anything you want. And when you drive forward with that attitude, my God, what you can create out of that is so amazing. And this is what the ruling class fears in people. I don't want to talk about them very much, but they don't want people waking up and realizing their true potential. And that's what we need to do.
Absolutely. We are so powerful. And that was so beautiful. That was so well said. Thank you. That was amazing. Yeah. I appreciate that for sure. So I have maybe 2 more questions. One being, sure. What would you tell your younger self as far as maybe giving some advice before NDE, maybe even when you were a child or a teenager, whatever it is? What would you tell your younger self?
Well, I'd first say, just don't. Whatever you're going to do, don't do it. Whatever you're going to do the opposite. Now, with that being said, I created this mentorship actually to speak to him. Like, I created it for him. But if I were to travel back into the past, like a Back to the Future style kind of thing, a time machine, and I were to go speak to him, I would say that he is worthy of so much more than what he thinks, that he is so much more than what he's made to believe that he is, and that he is so special in what he can offer, and he's so strong, and not to listen to other people because they do not know what is best for you. So quit giving all your power to, because I did that so much with people. They would just say something. I would just like, I don't know. We all do that, but I would make him know that not to do that anymore, because you're going to have a future that's going to be so amazing. But the course you're on right now is just going to lead to nothing but suffering and pain. Now, that being said, all that pain and all that suffering that I did go through, I don't want to take it back because it's made me me. Right. Like, I am this version of me because of all that pain. But still, I don't think that it needed to take that much pain to be me. I don't know. Did I really need to go through that much? But I would just let him know that he's worthy, that he's special, that he's great, and that he's worthy of anything that he desires, and he has the ability to make it happen. That's really the main message.
That's so beautiful. I love it. Thank you. Where can we find you on social media as far as your classes, your mentorship? I mean, maybe you'll write a book someday, but do you have a website? And if you can give us that info.
Yeah. So I think the best way to do that is if you can have a description below for my website and stuff. Yeah, that might be the easiest way. And then you can find me on Facebook as well under Jeff Tolley. There might be a bunch of those too, though. So maybe if we just add the descriptions, it's so much easier that way. And then so my company right now is just starting. It's just launching off, if you will. And there's so many more.
And what is your company called again?
So it's the Bronze Knight Academy, but there's different aspects. So we're going to take different elements. Like there's the Golden Knight Mystery School in it. There's the Iron Knight Training Camp. It's going to be more physical based for the physical stuff. And then the Silver Knight is going to be all about wellness and healing and nutrition and things like that. So you see how it's got this component of the elements and also the different aspects of who we are as far as the different things that we can do to be our best version. And, a lot of people work on the outside of themselves. They're working on making their car nice. They put money in towards all these things that show this outer appearance, but very few are investing the money in the real vehicle themselves. Like, if we invest money, whether it be through food, and, a lot of my money goes towards the healthy, expensive food and the minerals and the vitamins.
But it's so good.
Yeah. And, that's, I think for me, I never did any of that. I just never felt that to be important. But as I've developed this self kind of love and care, that's the automatic for me, is that I want to take care of myself the best I can so that I can actually have the energy to help those I need as well. So the Bronze Knight Academy is a whole full spectrum of many different things. So yeah, go check it out. There's lots of different things in there. And I have a YouTube channel as well called the Bronze Knight Academy. There's all kinds of, well, I got like maybe 9 or 10 videos. I'm not sure, but I'm going to keep posting, and there's lots of everything on there. Is just go check it out. All these little things that I put up, little videos, and then that's going to grow over time too. So yeah.
Awesome. Jeff, we're so thankful to have you on the series, the show. Thank you so much for your time. You're amazing. You are truly, and like your soul is, whew. I'm so thankful to have met you.
Almost a little too much.
No, it's not. It's not. It's exactly what we need at this time. And I do appreciate all your work with everybody that you're helping. It's phenomenal. Thank you so much.
I appreciate that. I really appreciate that, Kimberly. Thank you.